From the Charles River Basin between Boston and Cambridge, this is the Ivy League Digital Network. Good morning, everybody. Glad to have you with us for some women's rowing between Radcliffe, Michigan State, and Boston College. 5 races on the docket. We'll start with the V4B race between Michigan State, Radcliffe, and Boston College. All these teams competing for the second day of the weekend. Michigan State took on UMass, Northeastern, and BU yesterday. Radcliffe took on a very talented Yale and USC team yesterday. Let's take a look at the lineups for the V4B race. We'll start with Radcliffe, who will be in the middle lane. Sophomore Jenny Lee is the coxswain. Freshman Elizabeth Rowe is the stroke. Junior Catherine Playfair is in seat 3. Then it's freshman Sarah Tisdall and freshman Mirabelle Levine. Lineup for Michigan State. The Spartans have made the trip east from East Lansing, and their V4B lineup looks like this. The coxswain is Madison Shakel. The stroke is Caitlin Meisty. Emily Mall is in seat 3. Hannah Hentgen in seat 2. And the bow is Emily Tatke. And the lineup for Boston College looks like this. The second varsity 4 setup with the coxswain Erica Charnley. The stroke is Christy Verhoog. In seat number 3, Catherine DeVlieger. Seat 2, Megan McDonald. And the bow is Haley Bauer. We couldn't have better conditions than this in mid-April on the Charles. Temperature right around 50 degrees. Very little breeze. And the water is pretty glassy this morning. No real chop to speak of. So it should be great conditions for rowing. And for the teams that were out yesterday, you can shed a layer or two. It's maybe 10 degrees warmer. The wind is way less. And the conditions here really beneficial for racing. Now, there was a tailwind yesterday. We don't have much of a tailwind today, but I think we'll take the conditions that we do have here on the Charles. Schedule today looks like this. We're starting with the V4B race here at 7:30. At 7:50, we'll have the third varsity race. We'll have the V4A race at 8:10. At 8:30, we'll have the 2V race, and we'll have the first varsity race at 8:50. Looking to set up alignment here. Again, the lane assignments look like this. You have Boston College at the bottom of your picture, Radcliffe in the middle, and Michigan State up top. Should be competitive racing all day. In the national rankings, Radcliffe and Michigan State are separated by just one spot. Radcliffe at 16th, Michigan State at 17th. Here we go, our first race of the day. First few strokes so important in trying to get off into a strong position. It's a young group for Radcliffe in the V4B vote. You have 3 freshmen with Elizabeth Rowe, Sarah Tisdall, and Mirabelle Levine. 1 junior, Catherine Playfair, the coxswain, is a sophomore. Good start for Radcliffe. They've quickly pulled ahead of both Boston College and Michigan State. Yesterday, Michigan State was very good in its 4s races against Northeastern, BU, and UMass, winning both the V4B and V4A races. They also won their varsity 8 race. Radcliffe already with open water, looking at Michigan State, and with about a full-length lead ahead of Boston College. Looking very comfortable in the stroke seat right now as freshman Elizabeth Rowe brings them forward. Full-length lead for Radcliffe through the opening 250 meters. Boston College slightly ahead of Michigan State for second. Spartans brought a really big roster for a long trip like this. There are some teams when they come across the country that maybe only bring their first and second varsity, or maybe a first and second varsity and a V4A. Michigan State has a big enough roster to put 8s out in the 3V, the 2V, the 1V, and also have a V4A and V4B boat. Michigan State and Boston College neck and neck here for second place. Radcliffe with an open water lead already past the opening 500 meters. Getting to that point in this season where you want to make sure you have all your boats intact. The sprints are coming up. We're only a couple weeks away from Ivy Championships, which take place second weekend of May down in the Philadelphia area along the Cooper River. Michigan State starting to surge ahead of Boston College. Spartans into second. BC's fallen back to third. A 2-length lead for Radcliffe in first place. Again, Spartans went unbeaten in their 4 races yesterday in the 4s. They never lost a 4s race. They did lose the second varsity 8 race before winning the first varsity 8 race. Radcliffe looking for its first win of the weekend as well, as they took on 6th-ranked Yale yesterday, along with 13th-ranked USC. Unofficially through about 2 minutes 45 seconds of this race, and Radcliffe continues to stretch its lead with Michigan State in second and Boston College in third. Now it's technically a home race for both Boston College and for Radcliffe here on the Charles, where they're very familiar with racing. For Michigan State, rare trip out east to Boston. Consistent 2-length margin here for Radcliffe approaching the midway point of this race. Michigan State is starting to create open water back to Boston College for second. Radcliffe boat is so quiet right now. No splash at all from these strokes, staying nice and steady in the water as we've hit the 1,000-meter mark. Unofficial time of 3:39, the split for Radcliffe through the 1,000, and now they head underneath the bridge. Now if you're Radcliffe, you have this big lead. Now you're working on the margin and on your time as you come in the second half of the 1,000. First race of 5 on the day. Up next, we'll have third varsity race, then the V4A, the second varsity. Cap things off with the first varsity race at 8:50 this morning. So we'll come at you rapid fire today on the Ivy League Digital Network. Still a huge lead for Radcliffe, now maybe about 3 lengths with Michigan State in second, Boston College a length behind in third. And with the nice weather, good crowd already on hand over the top of the bridge, and we'll head toward the finishing straight. A lot less traffic on the river on a Sunday morning. These are the only races scheduled today compared to a Saturday where generally every 10 minutes there's another race going off. For Michigan State, getting bang for their buck this weekend, making the trip out east, rowing against 3 Massachusetts schools yesterday and 2 more today. Of course, the Big Ten has some great rowing schools, specifically Ohio State, tremendous program, competing for their national championships, contending over the last few years. Radcliffe still ahead by about 3 lengths, 5:20 gone on our unofficial counter as we approach the 500 meters to go mark. 3-length lead for Radcliffe. Michigan State has about as big a lead back to Boston College, so Michigan State in second, BC in third. Just a very slight breeze on the Charles today. If you were with us yesterday, it was so foggy you couldn't see the tops of most of the taller buildings. Today, there's not a cloud in sight. Radcliffe still churning ahead in first. Michigan State in second. Boston College in third. The team's basically evenly spaced from first to third. Radcliffe's had a large lead since very early into the race. They had open water by about the 500-meter mark. Radcliffe group of Jenny Lee, the coxswain, Elizabeth Rowe, the stroke, Catherine Playfair, Sarah Tisdall, and Mirabelle Levine, looking solid as they continue to wind their way toward the finishing stretch. Clock ticked to 6:45, still counting in our first race of 5 today for Radcliffe. About 100 meters to go for the Radcliffe black and white ahead of Michigan State and Boston College. It's like you see something like a 15-second gap most likely between the Radcliffe boat and Michigan State, and another 15 seconds or so back to Boston College. Here comes Radcliffe winding toward the flag. Final few strokes for the black and white. Radcliffe in the finishing stretch. And they bring home the opening race. Roughly 7:43, the unofficial time for Radcliffe. Michigan State finishing things off in their unofficial time. Will clock in at 7:57. So 14-second gap for Radcliffe's V4B. Boston College winding up the first race. And the Eagles are home at about 8:11. So about 15-second gaps all the way through. A good first race of the day for Radcliffe. They take the V4B. Coming up next, third varsity. You're watching on the Ivy League Digital Network.